Alright, so today we are talking about modeling with linear functions. Remember when we learned about linear functions back in Algebra 1, the slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, where m is the slope and b is the y-intercept. The other is point-slope form, which is y minus y1 equals m minus x1, where we know at least one point on the line and the slope. And if we are just flat out given 2 points on our line, we start by finding our slope, which is m equals y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. So if we take a look at number 1, it gives us a graph that shows us the distance asteroid 2012 DA14 travels in x seconds. It wants us to write the equation of the line and interpret the slope. The asteroid came within 17,200 miles of Earth in February 2013, and we need to figure out how long it takes the asteroid to travel that distance. So, if I look at this graph, notice it is starting here at 0, 0, and it has another point at, let me finish writing, at 524. So these, I will need to find my own slope. I have, not m, x1, y1, x2, y2. Remember, when I'm labeling my points, it doesn't matter which one I label x1, y1, and which one I label x2, y2, as long as they go together. So this one could have been x2, y2, or this one could have been x1, y1. Oops, I did not mean. Okay, then I want to plug into my slope formula. So I'm going to have 24 minus 0 over 5 minus 0. If I simplify, I get 24 over 5. That is the slope of my line. What I want to do now is I want to write the equation of my graph. I have two choices here. I have the point slope formula I can use, or if I look, I can actually see, and I know the coordinate point, where this is crossing the graph. This is crossing at 0, 0. That means my y-intercept is 0. So my equation of this line is y equals 24 fifths x. Okay. What else did this question ask for? It asked me to interpret the slope. So this means it travels 24 miles every 5 seconds. Okay, then it wants us to figure out how long it took to travel the distance. Remember, time was x, distance was y. So since they're giving me 17,200, this is being plugged in for my y. So I have 17,200 equals 24 over 5x. Remember, to get rid of fractions, I flip them and then multiply by both sides. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 5 over 24. Then what I want to do is, I might not have a graphing calculator at home, so I am going to show you on my phone calculator. You can also use Desmos as an alternative choice. So what I want to do is I'm going to do 5 divided by 24, because remember, fractions are the same thing as division, and then I am going to multiply by 17,200 to get an answer of 3,583.33. This was measuring in seconds. So remember, since the 3 repeats, I can draw the line over it, and then I just say seconds. Okay. Number 2 shows has a graph with the remaining balance y on a car loan after making x monthly payments. So we want to find the equation of the line, interpret the slope and the y-intercept, and then figure out what the remaining balance is after 36 months. So I'm going to label my points x1, y1, x2, y2. Then I'm going to plug into the slope formula. So I have 15 minus 18 over 10 minus 0 This gives me negative 3 over 10. My equation on this one, just to show you how it works when I plug in the point slope formula, I'm going to do that with the point 10, 15. So I would have y minus, my y1 is 15. My slope is negative 3/10 times x minus 10, not 10. Okay. Then what I want to do is I want to distribute the negative 3/10. So this left side is going to stay the same. Negative 3/10 times x is negative 3/10 x. Negative 3/10 x times negative 10. Remember, two negatives make a positive. I multiply my top numbers, so 3 times 10 is 30, divided by 10 is 3. Then I want to add 15 to both sides. And I get y equals negative 3/10 x plus 18. Notice if I look back at this graph, it was crossing at 0, 18. So I found my y-intercept nicely. I just gave this huge because you don't always have the 2 points given where one of them is the y-intercept. Alright, so once we found the equation of our line, it wants us to interpret the slope. So our change in y is in thousands of dollars. So for every $3,000 it's going, it takes 10 payments. So every 10 payments, makes the balance go down by $3,000. Okay. The y-intercept, since we're talking about a car loan, is the starting price. So $18,000 was the cost of the car. Okay. And then it wants us to find the remaining balance after 36 months. Remember, number of payments was my x, so I am plugging 36 in for x on this problem. I'm going to have y equals negative 3/10 times 36 plus 18. Then what I actually want to do here is, since the math is a little more complicated, I want to go to Desmos. So let me open that up. Alright, then I want to type in what I'm trying to solve. I'm trying to solve negative 3 divided by 10. Oops. The parentheses gets arrowed out, times 36 plus 18. And it calculates it for me right here. It gives me 7.2. So going back to my notes, I get 7.2. So this means the remaining balance is, remember, I have to multiply by 1,000 because it said my balance was in thousands of dollars. So my remaining balance is $7,200. So what I'd like you guys to do right now is pause the video, take a few minutes to work on the problems on the back, and then when you're ready to check your work, hit play, and then check your work with me. Okay. Number 3 is showing the distance Allison is hiking in X hours. We want to write the equation of the line, interpret the slope, and then figure out how long it takes Allison to hike 14 miles if she's traveling at the same rate. So what I'm doing here, this one, she is starting at 0, 0. So that's going to be my x1, y1, x2, y2. I'm going to find my slope. So that's going to be 24.5 minus 0 over 7 minus 0. That gets me 24.5 divided by 7. Since I have a decimal in my fraction, I actually want to go ahead and divide this out. So I am going to use my calculator. 24.5 divided by 7 equals 3.5. So then I want to write my equation. I have y equals 3.5x plus nothing, because my y-intercept here is 0. Okay, the 3.5 means it takes her an hour to hike 3.5 miles. Okay, and then it wants us to figure out how long it'll take her to hike 14 miles. Miles is our y value, so we're going to plug in for y on our equation. I have 14 equals 3.5x. Then what I want to go ahead and do is I want to divide both sides by 3.5. It gives us 4. So it takes her 4 hours. Okay. Number 4 is showing us ice cream cones sold at X degrees and Fahrenheit. So what's happening is someone is running an ice cream shop and they're seeing how many ice cream cones are sold at different temperatures. We want to write the equation of the line and interpret the slope, and then figure out how many ice cream cones are sold when it's 50 degrees outside. So this one gives me 2 points. One of them is not our y-intercept, so we will, when we get our equation of our line, have to use slope-intercept form. I'm going to make the top one x1, y1, the bottom one x2, y2. But like I said before, if you switch them, it doesn't matter. Then I'm going to plug into my slope formula. I'm going to have 117 minus 147 on the top. And on the bottom, I'm going to have 70 minus 90. Then I want to subtract. On the top, I get negative 30. On the bottom, I get negative 20. I can simplify. Both of these numbers are divisible by negative 10. So I get positive 3/2 for my slope. Now that I have my slope, I want to plug in my point slope formula. So I'm going to do y minus y1, which is 147, equals 3/2 times x minus x1, which is 90. Okay. The left side of the equation is going to stay alone for now. So I have y minus 147, and then I'm going to have 3/2 x. I want to distribute 3/2 times 90. So I am going to use my phone. I have 3 divided by 2 times 90, which gives me 135. Remember that this was negative. Okay. Then I want to get all of my constants to the same side, so I am going to add 147 to both sides. And I get y equals 3/2 x. And then I need to figure out what these two added together are. So I have negative 135 plus 147, which gives me 12 for my equation. Okay. Now the graph wants, or not the graph, now the problem wants me to interpret the slope. My change in y is talking about cones, and my change in x is talking about temperature. So for every 2 degrees Fahrenheit increase, 3 more ice cream cones are sold. Okay. It wants me to figure out how many ice cream cones are sold when the temperature is 50. So I'm going to go ahead and plug that in. I have y equals 3/2 times 50 plus 12. I'm going to go ahead and go back to Desmos to solve that. Let's clear this one out. So this one is 3/2 times 50 plus 12, which gives me 87. So 87 cones are sold.